On AM 1130, 99.9 FM, Prescott, Chino Valley, and Paulden, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, the talk of the Quad Cities, KQNA. It's
Hammer Time.
Waking Up with the YCCA. Hammer Time is brought to you by Lawhorn Plumbing, Verde Valley Alarm Services, Earthworks Landscape and Supply, Prescott Home Safety, Get Right Mitigation, Franklin Plumbing, The Blind Brothers, Caltex, Vicente Landscaping, Barrett Propane, Dignity Health, Yavapai Regional Medical Center, and Badger Roofing. And now from the studios of KQNA, it's Hammer Time. Waking Up.
Hey everybody, good October morning to you. It's deja vu. We're still in October, Wingman. But we're coming. We only have a couple weeks left.
That's correct.
And then Thanksgiving, and then Christmas.
That's correct.
Yoo-hoo! Yippee-yi-yay!
Right around the corner.
Yes. So all is well. Great weather. I got my car washed. Did you notice? No, you didn't.
I'm sorry, I did not. I did see you at the office over the weekend, though.
You know, people say they see me, but nobody ever stops to feed me.
I honk as I'm driving by, and of course, all the other people in the traffic look at me like, "What are you honking at?"
You say, "I'm honking at my girl Sandy. She's in the office." So we had a great show last weekend with Nancy and Chris from Patriot Pest.
We did.
Those were some crazy little critters we're dealing with.
They are, and they reproduce very often.
I know. And those pack rats, to see what they put in a nest, that blew me away.
Well, and the reproduction cycle is what amazed me, and I've got some because of the vacant lot next to me, so...
Are you going to get rid of them?
Shh, don't tell anybody. It's not my lot. But yes, I will.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody can hear us. How are you going to do it?
I'm not quite sure yet. I'm thinking about some bait.
No, they're not endangered species, are they?
Well, no, and as they said last weekend,
they
don't.
They
stuff
get rid of them. They turn their lights out.
Correct. So,
and then Agape House, their their opening of their Prescott Valley was this week on the 17th. So good on them for bringing some new homes in for families.
You bet, you good crowd. So
yes.
Congratulations to them.
Yes, we love you, Agape House. Today we're going to talk about Proposition 479. Important. And the whole show is going to be on 479.
Good.
Well, except for the portion where I have a funny joke to tell.
We can take that bit of a break.
And our super stellar guest with us, none other than the former Speaker of the House, Andy Tobin.
I was just going to say, let me get the drum roll going here.
Whoa, this is pretty incredible. Are you nervous?
I am scared to death. I'm surrounded.
Well, I know he's not afraid of being on the microphone and being on the radio because he's done that so much, so it must mean he's afraid of you, Sandy.
Wingman Mike, come on.
The good news is I have been on the same side as Sandy Griffith and the Yavapai Contractors for like ever. So I am so proud of that group and what they bring.
So we're going to talk about Andy and what he's been up to and if he misses being Speaker of the House. And again, more importantly, Proposition 479, which is on your ballot, everybody.
Yes, we will definitely get into that. But I can tell he's enjoying life after being down in Phoenix because he's smiling. He has a sparkle in his eye.
You know what? He's never not had a sparkle in his eye and a smile, for sure. You know?
You guys.
So take us to break, Wingman Mike, and when we come back, we will... share the former Speaker of the House out into the airwaves.
Perfect, and look forward to it. You're listening to Hammer Time, brought to you by Yavapai County Contractors Association, and we're tickled pink to be airing on Talk of the Quad Cities. That's KQNA 1130 AM, 99.9 FM, and 95.5 FM if you're listening to us either in Cottonwood or Prescott Valley.
Good job.
Please stay tuned for some fabulous messages from our ever so great sponsors. And stay tuned because we've got a great show ahead. Fill up that cup of coffee and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, good morning and happy weekend to you. We are thrilled to death to be able to bring you Hammer Time, the best, the most outrageous, the most educational, the most funnest radio show.
Those are all good adjectives. I appreciate those.
Thank you.
And I happen to agree with you.
Thank you, my wingman Mike. So our guest with us this morning, Mr. Andy Tobin, former Speaker of the House.
Right.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Do you remember how long ago that is?
That was a long time ago.
Sandy, you were one of the people that were telling me to get in this legislature thing, and I kept running everybody else's races. You know, the fear was if I ran everybody else's, nobody would ever come and ask me to run. And at the end of the day, so it's 2006 now when I got in this race very late, and so for all the voters out there. Wow. I mean, the primary race, there were 4 people for 2 House seats. You'll remember Lucy Mason was the sitting incumbent, and Tom O'Halloran was leaving his seat to run for the Senate seat because Ken Bennett was vacating. So that's how far back it was when Ken left. Wow. And so the chamber and YCCA, a lot of my friends, you got to get just do a couple of years. Just do a couple of years and come home. And I'm like, okay. Talk to the wife and okay, we'll go down there and do that. Education was a big thing, still is. I wanted to be vice chair of education, which I became. But at the end of the day, it took us a week to count ballots. I won by 42 votes. Well, I didn't even get started with the campaign, and I didn't have signs up until the day ballots went out. And I'm like, there's no way I'm winning this. So I'm like, my business partner, Frank LeClaire, is still like, don't you love Frank?
Yeah, my gosh.
He's still knocking them dead out there. I had to sell that company to him when the governor later appointed me head of banking and insurance, which we consolidated 2 agencies. There's quite a history.
You should write a book.
You know what? I don't know if I could, have the patience. I feel like I just came back from Disneyland with the grandkids, and we did Legoland, we went fishing, we did SeaWorld in 10 days, and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, boy, I don't know if I could sit down and write a book. I have to dictate something, but it was we won by 42 ballots. Yeah, 7 days after counting was finished,
amazing.
And then of course you get down there. Remember, these are the days Governor Napolitano was still the governor, and Barack Obama had just won presidency, and I had finished my first term, and here we go. And Janet was leaving, and he announced because she was going to the cabinet. And then we had, of course, Jan Brewer came in, and the Great Recession hit. I mean, boom, right on top of that. Yep. And I'm like, why did that come down here, right? We cut 30% out of government. But the neat part is we focused on what do we do when we get out of this mess.
Right.
And that's what you helped with the new Arizona Commerce Authority. How did that? We made sure we got to a manufacturing base by fixing our tax structure, which was horrific at the time for manufacturing. And how are we going to do this? And how are we going to get the public and private sector to sit at the same table? And voila, we created the Commerce Authority.
And it works well.
It does work well. Well, thanks to you guys and your participation in it. And they're listening to rural Arizona, which, as you well know, always takes an extra effort because there's so many of us getting outvoted.
But are we really rural anymore?
That's a great question. If you look at, they still consider Pinal County rural, right? Well, Pinal County
is growing by leaps and bounds.
Right, they have as many people there as Yavapai and Coconino combined. So they're probably the closest to not being rural anymore. A lot of the farmland due to the water, whatnot, is turned over. But they're building cars in Pinal County and Casa Grande. They're building batteries. They're building. This manufacturing has taken off. Remember, in the old days, we lived and died on what's happening with housing. Right, housing went up or housing went down. This went up, or then thank God we had our mining and we had our farmlands, which kind of kept that all together. But the budgets today, Sandy, are double what they were when I was down. They're double.
They keep going up.
I know, and but the good news is these resources are being created. Look at I-17. We would never have gotten those resources to widen that if we hadn't actually found another another stool in the bar, right? We couldn't just survive on real estate, couldn't just survive on the big C's, right? We had to move this out. Tourism has kept up, but the manufacturing sector and the technology sector have just exploded in Arizona, and we are clearly the gateway to the Americas now. And I often called it that because, as you know, I went down to Mexico to open a trade office in the middle of 1070 and all this craziness that we had to deal with the budget, and we opened our trade office down there. I put it right next to the or tried to. I didn't actually win that one, but we got it open, the Texas Chamber, because they had their, in Mexico City, they had their trade office. So it was the beginning of starting, how do we get to point A to point B? Why can't Arizonans get their products into Mexico? How can we make this the place for people to bring their neighbors? Right? And so the public-private sector opened those doors.
Good.
And so we were very lucky for all that time. I went on, and the truth is I became the majority whip, but I was still thinking I was leaving. And, okay, that's enough time.
Surprise.
I've done a couple of years. And then the Speaker of the House resigned to run for Congress after 3 months. And next thing I know, I'm Speaker for the next 4 years and going through, a lot of that stuff back there. But I felt bad leaving because even though I think I left, I know I left it in a better place.
You did,
I know
definitely.
we did a lot of right, but it wasn't fermented yet, right? Because all this stuff was now going to begin to happen, and it did. And I'm very lucky. And then, of course, Governor Ducey brings me back in to shrink government and make it what we want it to be, and it was an incredible experience. So he gave me a second bite at the apple, be part of the renaissance after kind of putting all that planning
We
together.
will continue to give you cartons of apples for the second bite, buddy.
But I would. You still have to be able to sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor, even though you weren't there when they began to materialize. It's got to make you feel good.
It does. The governor put me in places like, and we got rid of what a lot of listeners don't know, because we didn't write a book, to your point, Sandy. We got rid of agencies. Literally got rid of agencies. Literally got rid of these elected officials' retirement plans. Literally got rid of those things. And
Speaking of agencies and getting rid of, we have leaders, I don't even know if we should call them leaders down there, that want to do away with commercial contracting.
Oh, my gosh.
That would be such a devastation.
Yeah, we were just commenting before we got started how valuable that contracting direction is. Clear in Yavapai. Look at the quality of our infrastructure as it goes in.
I know.
That happens because of the continuing education you guys do and the continuing involvement with the community and advocating. Listen, when I went down there, you don't know all the answers, but if you leave your door open and absorb what's going on into the folks it affects the most, that's where the best science, I think, of politics is. When you were coming down saying, hey, this will help us grow, this will help us do it right, those were no-brainers for us to sit there. Okay, we've got Sandy on our side. This means something to the Contractors Association. This means something to growth. This means something to education. So keeping the doors open, not jumping off the cliff every time we're trying to solve a problem by making it too big. Just trying to make sure you move that needle. And we did. So few people are shocked when I tell them I was in the aerospace business. You knew that. I ran an aerospace company and had an insurance. But I did a lot of things. I just could never land on the one I thought I was my best at. But the truth is that we were able to bring Six Sigma quality to state government. And I finished up my career with Governor Ducey running the state's administration, which is kind of like what Maury Thompson does for the county, right? He's the county manager, and I was the state manager. And I had 400 or 500 people that were working to manage all that, and every one of them became a white belt in Six Sigma, which is all about efficiency, which speaks direct to a lot of your members. How do we have continuous improvement? How do we track it? And so we kind of put a manufacturing guy in the middle of this, and it worked. We got rid of 1 million square feet of space.
That's right, you did back then.
State government didn't need.
Boy, when we come back from break, what we're going to have to do is convince them to go to Washington and start cleaning house there.
So. You're right, Wingman Mike,
Lord.
Yes.
Mike, I want my money
Andy.
back, Mike.
We used to be friends.
I know, right?
We need to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to start our conversation about Proposition 479
Very cool.
and how we can send Sir Andy Tobin to Washington.
Oh, my goodness.
Don't move. We'll be right back.
my wife's
Andy,
not
Mike,
listening.
and me.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey, everybody. Happy weekend, and welcome to Hammer Time, brought to you by YCCA. So our stellar guest, Sir Andy Tobin, is with us this morning. This is so cool. I think you need to come and be with Mike and me every 3 months.
I can't tell you how much I've missed our time together
I
on the
know.
radio.
See, we got to get back on radio, buddy.
There's always something to talk about. And it was, anyway.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about Proposition 479, and it's the last item on your ballot, listeners.
Right.
It's a 2-page ballot, and it's on the fourth side, right? Way down at the bottom.
Flip it.
Yep.
So just vote yes.
And we have talked on many occasions about how important this is.
Yes.
But we want to reaffirm that with Andy to really get into it, to let people know exactly what it's about and how beneficial it is to us.
So I think the first thing, the most important thing is, listeners, and I know you agree, Mike and Gregory and Andy, it doesn't raise property taxes.
Right. It doesn't raise any taxes.
Nothing. No tax. Nothing.
No, it does not. And I have to congratulate the County Board of Supervisors. Listen, you know this, Sandy, inherently. This law is 40-something years old. This thing goes way back. The whole idea was to try to make sure we had control so the counties weren't getting out of control with their resources. It has a lot. Towns and cities might have called it home rule. There's some similarities there, and what it is that we are growing so well. Our county supervisors, besides putting this on the ballot for the voters, they also have dropped the county rate, which is important because, especially for our seniors and everything. So watch as your bill's coming in, and you'll see what rates are going down, and it's the county rate, which sends a clear message about how well they're operating. So at the end of the day, we are literally dropping our rate, but the resources are growing, right? Because quite frankly, our economy has done very well. And even though there's concerns about we don't want to get too big and all that, we are not growing at 2%. That 2% is not, we're in the ones. Mm-hmm. But the answer is that we want to make sure that infrastructure grows right. And we don't want to have folks having to go out and raise taxes because, the counties shares, right? They work with the towns and with the cities and with the commercial development community to make sure that these resources are spent well. And I don't have to tell you guys what's going on with inflation. By having this money now sit there, which I think, Sandy, was almost $8 million or so, $7.9 million. That's right, because it's Prop 479. So that money gets to sit there.
So where does it come from? Where is the money?
It's a great question. So here we are. We're part of the state shared revenue, right? So it's the sales tax revenue and all those things that funnel themselves into the county. And the county now has just through sheer good management and the fact that we are well growing, are accumulating this cash. And they can't spend it because that limitation is there. So they can't go in and say, oh, perfect. We need this sheriff station, or we need this over here, and instead of going to raise taxes for it or cutting somewhere else to get there, these resources sit on the sidelines now. And we've not had that kind of issue before. So now with all of the infrastructure pieces we've got that we can plan ahead and get in under this inflationary problem we have, now's the time to get those dollars moving instead of waiting down the road to use those monies.
It's just money sitting there waiting for voter approval.
Yes.
How often can the county increase the base expenditure?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, in theory, they can't. The voters have to.
Right.
Okay.
And every couple of years they could do that. But here we are 40 years later,
and
we've never done it.
Yeah.
Ever
that's pretty
done
good
it.
management.
That's
Well,
incredible.
and there is an escalator, as I understand it, but it just doesn't keep up with
That's
the rate
right.
of growth.
Right.
Yeah, and that's in the old formula, right? It builds with inflation and expansion and all that, but it's not enough to keep up, especially now with our increasing costs that are out there. We
Right.
can't keep up with a lot of the infrastructure that we want to put out. They didn't figure that the cost of lumber would be what it is today, so I mean they're looking at these rising expenditures.
So, the other thing about this proposition is that the county, Andy, and I know you'll agree, that they have expenses now for things that didn't exist back in 1980.
Exactly. Well, look at the sheriff's office,
Yes.
for heaven's sakes. Look at some of the road costs that we talked about, some of these highway costs that are out there. How we get how do we get our roundabouts that are all over?
I love
How do we do that,
roundabouts.
right? But some of that comes with, hey, we're going to put a little in the pot. ADOT's going to put a little in the pot. Simpo's, there's a pathway for us to be able to share in these expenses if you have the cash that you can use. Right now, it's the county's well managed. Maury's done a good job. Tyler Goodman is over there
I know,
again,
that
right?
is so awesome.
So here we got Tyler, we got Maury coming in.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I think Maury's he's from Kansas City and he's been here a year and a half. The guy lives and breathes Yavapai
He
County.
loves his job. He loves what he does.
And he's all over the place.
He is. He's a good man.
And I do some work for him to help on some of these policies that are going on down there, kind of get him some feedback from the Capitol. So I'm enjoying that. But having these resources sit there to not be able to be spent when we know the costs continue to rise, when we can better plan, and they've got a planning process coming up again, right? The county does their like cities do their city plan and all that. The counties are coming up in 25, so you'll start seeing them starting to plan on all these resources. And they've got a list this big. You can talk to the sheriff. I know he's been out there talking about about Prop 479 as well, and how much that will help us get safety to outer communities, and what does that mean for getting to response times quicker and having our infrastructure resources well spent.
So the money then, when voter approval, we're going to say positive, the voters will approve this, then it begins in fiscal year 2025?
Right. So here comes, but they can now start planning right? That's the whole idea. So they can start getting these RFPs moving, and what I love about it is this is local work. Right, this is local work. These means our local, your members, right, who have been doing this work for all this time. These are the folks who live here in Yavapai and do an incredible job, and that's going to build on itself. We want our locals to be doing our local management and local infrastructure, and this is a perfect pathway. I mean, it's not like. What government is so well run? It's not our federal government where you can have $8 million sitting in the bank, that is there for these resources. Usually the feds will go borrow it, and that creates the inflationary problems that we have. But, when I was in the legislature, we didn't have to worry about having more money. We were cutting all the time, and that sets you back as well, because now you're pushing back on your deferred maintenance issues. Your buildings are getting older.
I know. Same with the schools.
Right?
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
Terrible.
So the idea is, how can we now accelerate that process that'll reduce those forward-going costs and do it locally, and do it with our county supervisors who are going to be part of that planning, and make these selections and prioritize how we're going to build this infrastructure.
So, you just hit on the point a second ago.
We have to take a break when we come back.
Okay.
Take us to break.
I won't make it quick. I'll just defer.
Perfect. Awesome.
You're listening to Hammer
Defer.
Time. We've got a great conversation going with Andy Tobin. We're going to talk more about 479, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Hey everybody, happy weekend. And how are you going to vote on 479, Wingman?
I will do it affirmatively.
And Mr. Andy Tobin, how are you going to vote on 479?
I'm voting yes. I mean,
Me too. I voted 5 times.
Oh, good. Okay. No.
We're not in Chicago. Come on.
Darn. Okay, I voted once.
Right.
Okay, you guys. So, I was offered a construction job in Egypt.
Here we go, Andy. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I had to turn it down because I discovered that it was a pyramid.
Scheme.
Wise choice.
Right.
What do you think?
That's good. You know, right before we went to break, one of the things I was just going to mention, and Andy hit on it, if there are, let's say that there are 5 items that the county needs to do that are all 5 important, without being able to use these funds, the longer those 5 items sit on the shelf, the more expensive they get.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
if the funds aren't released, let's just say it went on for another 3 or 4 years, those same 5 items that we're waiting to do that could have been done today possibly, all of a sudden we're down to maybe 2 or 3 of those, or maybe just 1. Yeah. So the importance of getting this passed now is ever so important.
It's very important.
It's one of those no-brainers on the. I shouldn't say no-brainer because I don't mean to be insulting to the audience, but there's no. There's no no. Did I say that? There's no against
negative
group out there saying this isn't a good idea. In fact, I have yet to run into an elected official, anybody who doesn't think this is a good idea going forward. I'm hoping there are none. If you don't like it, please call me. But at the end of the day, everyone recognizes that this is it's a good checks and balances with our citizenry. It's good for this to come up so that our citizens can see, hey, these guys have been balancing this budget. These guys have been reducing our rate. They must be doing something right. Let's keep that ball rolling, right? Mm-hmm. Because we don't want to end up having to start adding things to this budget and cutting from other places, which, I know, Mike, we had talked about that as we were exiting our last session here. But, the truth is that all counties are subdivisions of state government. Right? They're all subject to state government. That's why we're down there watching what they're doing. We had problems with HERF. Remember the HERF funding, which was all about our highway funding. Yep. We were literally sweeping that on a regular basis, which was county money.
Terrible.
Mm-hmm. Sweeping that on a regular basis just to balance budgets and pay state police instead of getting it to the counties. Look at what that did. These are things, and it took years to get that restored. And I only share that because when we have state budget crisis, which we just had $1 billion problem, right? They got through that. Everybody took a haircut. Things that didn't get water infrastructure was probably the number one hit. You'll remember they put a lot of money into augmentation. It didn't quite happen. They're probably further down the road with how are we going to augment. But that money's already gone. So that was $750 million that got swept to help solve for this current problem. So then now resources have come back. But when we were down there, if you're a sitting subdivision of the state government and they're trying to not cut, desperate research, and when I say not cut to the bone, we went into counties and swept resources. So you go ask Maricopa County, I think, and now remember Governor Jan Brewer was a former Maricopa County supervisor. And I can remember like it was yesterday, we took $50 million right out of Maricopa County to help balance that. But everybody took a haircut. So I don't want these resources sitting around being fodder for another budget issue too. So getting these resources spent wisely will really help us go forward.
So if the money's there and the state knows it's there, why do they make it voter approval and just not give us a check?
So it sits in the county funds, right? So it's sitting here.
Right.
So the state isn't taking charge of those monies because there's not a crisis out there. So it's a very good question. The state's going to continue to look. We have other funds that were at risk. I know they had money that they were going to put in the Prescott Rodeo. That's still hanging out there. What's the result? So that might be a long stretch to kind of paint the picture of what could happen. But when you have 31 votes to get out of 60 people in one chamber and 16 out of 30 in another chamber, they're trying to solve this budget crisis, and they're looking for pathways to not they have to vote to do that.
The chambers would have to vote.
Yes.
And this citizen vote is probably the lesser of two evils,
Right.
we hope, and
Right.
that's why.
Yeah.
So it has to be voter approval.
Right. So what's going to happen is hopefully we're going to give the county the authority for our
to release the money.
And that's why I mentioned about the new county plan coming up, because hey, we've got qualified, well-respected management and leadership now who's earned the respect of everyone to balance budgets and keep this county moving well. And now what we're doing is we're taking the resources of there rather than throw it into this potential state mix.
And it's
We let that, everybody gets to come by and chime in. I don't like that project. I like this one, but one way or another,
But
let's use the
I don't
resources.
want to use the word gross because that seems to be not such a lovable word nowadays. But by voting yes on this, and I think you'll agree, Andy, is that it's a powerful tool for promoting economic stability.
Couldn't agree more. Economic stability. Listen, we all recognize infrastructure goes away, and it's the last thing we put money back into.
Right, and we so need some of that done right now.
We do. And the state, we were at $1 billion of deferred maintenance on some of these buildings. We never had the resources to build them back up. Well, the good news was the older they got, I knocked them down because it wasn't worth it. We knocked buildings down and we got out of leases, but we are in a growth focus on quality growth, right? We have water issues. None of this is going to affect how those water issues gets resolved. There's still going to be folks here who will be able to speak to the supervisors about how we're going to invest this infrastructure now. But if this doesn't pass, there'll be no purpose in it, right? Nobody will have a chance to go in and talk about these things which they desperately need.
Well, and we need to desperately convince, even not convince, just say vote yes on 479.
Right. Flip that ballot and check that box when you first get it.
So how did you get involved with promoting 479, Andy?
I got to tell you, I came on board to help when I came back from Phoenix. Maury and I met, and they were looking for some help down at the state capitol. So I'm non gratis. I'm a volunteer in a way, but they approved me to be down there on the county's behalf. So I do work for the county, but I live here. I struggle to take resources from my neighbors. Maybe down the road when I'm getting older, maybe. But for right now, the idea was, this is so important. This is about economic development. They brought me on to help with economic development, and this is one of those. If we can get these resources, that turns that page and moves us into the next opportunities. Or what about the safety mechanism? How much quicker can we get some of these roads updated and better prepared so we can reduce some of this congestion that you're feeling? So this isn't going to be, okay, we're going to spend $8 million and God, we're going to have 80,000 more houses. It's nothing like that at all.
That's not what's going to happen.
Right, but we'll have energy issues coming on board. You'll have water issues and piping issues and things like communication. I do some private work, and we've got broadband coming. We've got, I know they're debating solar issues at, those issues and how we're going to power Yavapai County and build our infrastructure over the next 20 years are really happening now. Mm-hmm. It's the same leadership team, and this population is going to talk about it and try to solve for affordable housing. Right? I mean, that's on the top.
That's a big one.
What are we doing for daycare? How will we make it? We can't put more taxes on our people. And this is one way.
We would revolt.
Oh, right? And this is one of those ways.
And by the time you actually need those services, it's too late.
It is too late. You're right, Mike.
Or it's too expensive, right? Now you're like, okay, now what's the next step?
Listeners, we have to take a break, and when we come back, we will finish our conversation on why you should vote yes on 479 with the best ever, Andy Tobin. Don't move.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Welcome back to Hammer Time. We love Hammer Time, don't we?
We do.
Don't we?
Oh, we do.
Okay, so I know that the county's website, Andy, has some great information on
does.
Proposition 479.
That's exactly right. So, and you can go there. I think the other answer is you can download, and all the cities in the county, the chambers all have this information. I sent it to them all, so I know they all have it. And but also to our business communities, let your employees know.
Good point.
Right? Let them know this isn't politics. This is about business.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, and and I know we have some that have been putting out in their paychecks. Right. Don't forget here's what 479 is. Read it, or hey, here's the copy of what the summary is on 479. Those are really good ideas to our seniors that are struggling to make ends meet. This will not hurt you. This will help, because what we're trying to do is keep the arm of government from getting bigger by having to go out and raise tax rates, and by using these resources, that keeps that from over happening. So I think at the end of the day, for employers to get on there, for nonprofits to look at this as a great pathway to support their folks and their industries as well. So there's really no downsides to Prop 479, and I will share that. Whatever you do, please go out and vote. And I know that, Sandy, how many times have we had this guy? Oh, this is the biggest election of our lifetime. But literally, this is big. There's 13 of these ballot propositions out there on the ballot. I know it's heavy, and I know there's a lot of study going that you're looking at on these. But this one here should take less of your time. But there's not going to be any new taxes with that. You'll see some of our new signs that are up there. I know we got some radio spots out there. I got to thank our friends in APS and the Fanes and really Fan Contracting, because they're just trying to get the message out what this is, and that's important because we've never had it before. Right. If you haven't lived here 40 years ago, you wouldn't know. So anyway, Maury asked me to help out, and I'm thrilled to do that. I think this is one of especially the more rural you get, the even more valuable this is, because we tend to wait our turn, right, as things kind of go from the hubs and spread out.
We're not waiting our turn.
We're not anymore. This is time, right? This is the right time. So
on the voter pamphlet, there were several letters sent in support of this. Right. And I just, for our listeners, Tom Thurman wrote in, Bill Feldmeyer wrote in, Larry Tarkowski wrote in, Sheriff David Rhodes wrote in, Randy Garrison wrote in. Right. Your YCCA girl, Sandy Griffiths, wrote in.
Thank you, Sandy Griffiths.
Darlene Packard wrote in. So, listeners, these are all true champions of this community and express their reasons why voting yes is so important.
And again, this money, we've covered the fact that it's not going towards raising taxes. It's not designed to do that. But it's also not going to increase size of government. This is not for that purpose. This is for getting projects done.
Right. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. How often do you get to really have government sit there and say, we've really done a good job, everybody, but we have extra money in the bank and we can't touch it.
And how you get to vote for something that doesn't raise your taxes.
Right.
And that's like a really phenomenal thing.
And it's not like a personal situation where you can say, good, I haven't spent that money, I'll put it in my bank account. Right. Because if it's in my bank account, nobody, well, except for my wife, can come and sweep that account. Right. But this is a different situation. If we continue to bankroll that, sooner or later, if we're not allowed to spend it, it will be taken. Right. It will be taken by the state. Right. Period.
Yes, it will at some point in time, and we don't want to take any chances.
Right.
So
no, this is
yes.
Yes. I call it yes for Yavapai. but it's Prop 479. If you can remember, flip that page over and check it first. And I know you got our listeners have their work cut out for them. They're getting bombarded. I think in the time I've sat here with you, I've had 4 text messages from Ted Cruz to write a check to Texas. I'm like, and that's just Texas. I'm like, I'm sure more are going to pile up before we get done with the show.
I'm getting them too. See? I'm not sending a check to Texas.
Right. Don't send any checks to Texas. Just vote yes on 479.
One of the things that Andy brought up is about telling our employees, and I know we're getting ready to have our annual YCCA banquet, and that's a good opportunity for us to make sure that we share it with all of our members.
I'm sending an email out. I'm not going to wait.
But a lot of them will have their employees there too. So whenever you can, share this with your respective employees.
Yes, to all of our listeners.
And if you're a municipality and you want to take it to your council meeting or what have you, to endorse it, in an open meeting. There's nothing wrong with that either. That'll get a little bit more attention, even to the chambers if they want to do that at their board meetings.
So if somebody has a question, where do they go to get an answer?
Well, I'm going to tell you, if you have some questions, you can call me.
Perfect.
Andy Tobin, and my cell phone number hasn't changed in 40 years, and most everybody has it. But I'm at 710-2351.
928.
928. And please feel free to call me. But the truth of the matter is that this is one of those that doesn't take a lot of study, other than it just is opening the door for good, strong management. And
I think that they would call that a no-brainer.
Yeah,
right.
Yes, they would.
It's one of those things. But I got to give the county board of supervisors some credit for putting it on, because all these years nobody. And of course the worry is that people are going to think it's a tax increase. Why do we have to go to the voters? But that's why, because the voters have made sure that they are still in charge of government by having these statutes on the books in the first place. So they're like, hey, you can't spend that money without coming to me, and that's what they're doing.
Okay.
It is okay.
Yeah.
I love that idea. I love that. That's right. It's exactly correct, Mike. It still stays there. This one just adjusts the limit so they can spend the resources that we've already paid for.
Okay, so $7.9 million
right now.
Right now, so it could go up.
It's going to go up because the county is actually still doing well, so they're not going to budget more than than what the cost. So this is ongoing, right? As these resources come in,
Perfect.
so they'll be able to utilize this, for years to come. So it's a great step.
Sometimes truisms are not always correct, and this is one time, and that is the old saying that there is no such thing as a free lunch.
This is a free lunch.
Is a free
and
lunch.
you can think about it, because these are taxes that have accumulated that they've already been spent.
Yes.
I had one guy ask me, he goes, well, why don't they just give everybody the money back? And I go, well, I don't know if $3 a month is going to really help anybody's pocketbook at this point. It costs more to write the checks and hire people to do it. And I said, but at the end of the day, it's the projects that are out there that we need to get on and get moving. And this is going to really add to that success
So there
story.
is a free lunch with Culver's ice cream.
Oh boy!
Andy,
oh yeah,
Andy.
the best malteds in town.
He is so bad. When we come back, the guy has a freezer full of Culver's.
Oh my Lord!
Culver's pints.
We'll be right back, listeners.
You're listening to Hammer Time, waking up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Once again, here's your host, Sandy Griffiths.
Andy, thank you from the bottom of our heart to come on with Mike and me to Hammer Time and share the importance of voting yes on 479.
Well, Sandy, thank you again for the time and the good work that you do.
This was amazing.
Yeah.
And, we love you.
You are so kind.
Forever.
Yeah.
You are a true champion of Yavapai County and your hard work that you've done in the past.
Yes.
I say Andy for president.
Oh my.
We'll work him on the sidelines. We'll work on him to get into Washington.
Yes, we can. So
sorry, Mrs. Tobin.
Yeah. Well, I've had the incredible opportunity given to me by our voters, our neighbors.
I know.
And I will never
Totally.
will always
I
remember
know.
and appreciate it. Thank you.
So what
we
history
appreciate
and everything you've done for Yavapai County.
you.
So share your cell phone number one more time should somebody want to call you.
Yeah, 928-710-2351. You go to the Yavapai County website, and it's probably yavapaicounty.com, and you'll be able to .gov. Sorry, that's right, .gov, and you'll see it there. You'll see they actually passed the proclamation there, and all those things, and I hope you consider being a yes vote. This is one of those really positive things we can do for all sectors of our community.
Totally is.
And from one end of the mother of all counties, Yavapai County, we started it all. It's all from here. And
so vote yes on 479.
Vote yes.
Vote yes on Prop 479.
Vote yes.
Affirmative.
Okay.
Right, there we go.
Andy, thank you. We love you. Have a great weekend, everybody. Mike and I will be back next weekend. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Very cool.
Hammer time.
Thank you for tuning in to Hammer Time. Waking Up with the YCCA, a presentation of the Yavapai County Contractors Association. Heard each and every Saturday morning at 7, with an encore presentation Sunday mornings at 7 on AM 1130 at 99.9 FM in Prescott, 95.5 FM, Prescott Valley and Cottonwood, and online at kqna.com. A library of past Hammer Time shows can be listened to on the Yavapai County Contractors website at ycca.org.
Break it down.